Hey, this is Tiger. Welcome to my stream. Hey, AJ. Good evening to you. Hey, Juniper. Hiya, good to see you. Perny, so nice to see you. Good evening, everybody. We're back to do some serious stuff. Not so much running Thomas the Tank Engine, as cute as he is, through the DLC that does not work on my setup. But to look at the Halbregelabstand in the HV system. Perny resubscribed at tier 1 and they've subscribed for 13 months. Thank you so much for the ongoing support, and he says he's actually on a ferry ride now on my way to go interrailing. So you have so much fun doing this. Juniper says, oh wow, how much fun, I'm going in 2 weeks across Austria. You guys have so much fun doing this. It is a great thing to do. I'm also happy that I actually got this half day off last week on Monday to go to Mittenwald, and it is such a nice route even in real life between Garmisch and Mittenwald. Thanks also for Warblocks15 in case you are watching this live or later on YouTube. Thank you so much for subscribing with Prime. And yeah, let's get started with what we are going to do today. We're going back to Frankfurt S-Bahn DLC. Thank you so much, Dovetail Games, for giving me a free copy of this so that I can present you with this DLC in my capacity as a Dovetail Game ambassador. Nevertheless, you will hear my unfiltered opinion of everything that is going on in this DLC. And I think we start at looking at what I actually wanted to discuss with you today in a free roam experiment. We go in the free roam experiment, that's what I started to say, and I started going into the timetable. I want to go into free roam and go to free roam to this station here, Mainz-Kastel. That is one of the sites where there should be a Halbregelabstandsverfahren. Theodoros, hey folks, so nice to see you back on the chat with us. Late at night for you. With us here in Europe, it is still light and bright day. At 8 o'clock in the evening. So the idea is to show you what the idea is about the half distance or half regular distance system that we use to create more capacity for our trains. We have here a rather cramped station in Mainz-Kastel with a lot of trains wanting to get through, not in free roam obviously because we are alone in the world here, but in reality. So, the worst thing is that my camera broke, says Perny, about a week ago, so I'll have to rely on a phone camera. Absolutely the worst time for it to break. Yeah, I can see that. But nowadays phone cameras can do a lot, can't they? I will spawn a train here, so that it blocks the track. And if you look at the map, you can see this is the track that is going towards Frankfurt, coming from Wiesbaden towards Frankfurt here in Mainz-Kastel. We have only this one line running south. The other lines are, at least signaling wise, going to the north. And if you look at the signals in the approach to Mainz-Kastel, you might probably see that if you start going outwards with this signal 180, what is the signal behind our train that is blocking everything, you will get signals in a quite short distance. The signal is also for the same direction. You can already see here that it is a signal called A178, and very close after that, about half the distance that you would expect the next signal, you find signal 182. And I wanted to demonstrate by running up to this train from using the fast travel function Shift F on PC to go to Wiesbaden Ost and run a train from there. Wow, the CD radar, so nice to have you on the stream. And Bernie says, yeah, but some more fancy stuff like that. Nighttime shoot I took a few months ago just isn't possible. Yeah, I get it. So, this is Wiesbaden Ost. We're looking already in the correct direction. There is one of those old guys that they have on the routes now, with thinning hair and his stick. You have 4 platforms here. The middle 2 lines are for the direction Mainz North and Mainz Main Station, whereas if we want to go towards Mainz-Kastel, we would have this outside line here on platform 4, if I see that correctly, while the platform 1 line is coming from Mainz-Kastel. So we're spawning a train to go to Mainz-Kastel. Well, we can't because the line is blocked at the moment, and I want to show you the signaling that the game is giving us for this approach and what might actually be the problem with it, because in my opinion the game is not doing the Halbregelabstand correctly, at least not in this context from what I think. And Juniper says, yeah, phone cameras are great until the sun goes down. So we are here at Wiesbaden Ost. Our other train is sitting here in Mainz-Kastel. This is what I told you. The outside lanes are going straight through this through this junction to Mainz-Kastel, while the inside lines here from Wiesbaden Ost are going around the bend and then here to Mainz North. What is this funny station in the corner that I always tend to miss? So, giving this train something to do, set a path, and so that our counter actually helps us a lot, I will set the path just in front of the signal that controls entry to the platform that is occupied by the other train that we created in the beginning. So that signal obviously cannot clear because the track is occupied, and we will just go up onto to this signal. And line speed here, you can see it is 110, and this does not change until we get to Mainz-Kastel. So ahead we go. And look at the distance counter as we approach to see the spacing between the main signals. We're leaving Wiesbaden Ost, passing this signal here. What is, I always will stop and use the photo mode to show you what we're doing. It's an S signal, 404. What is probably an intermediate signal, not the exit signal. I'm not sure about this though. With a high green, HP1, and it is giving us the indication that the next signal is green as well, and it is coming in a shorter distance than usual. This is not the Halbregelabstand yet, but a thing that can happen just because of the peculiarities of the line, that the distance is a bit shorter than 950 meters, and then you get the white additional light on the VR distance signal. Again, it is a 110 limit, and I'm intending to make use of our line speed here. Next main signal that we are passing is probably the exit signal now, because it has a P. Some signal engineer guy once told me that entry and exit signal, especially in the HV system, typically have the AP and F notation. He said, you remember that with the phrase alles passiert nach Feierabend, everything happens after the work is done for the day. And so a P signal is probably the exit signal for Wiesbaden Ost. Since I do not have the actual signal plans, I'm not entirely sure whether this is the case. We're not getting distance signal at this point. That means that the spacing to the next signal is further than 1000 meters. And we are getting a high green HP1, so no restriction. Now we're actually going underneath those lines that are going to Mainz North. Distance signal is indicated. Distance signal that we're getting is now an isolated distance signal having the NE2 board and indicating that the next signal that is supposed to come in 1000 meters is a high green. That was the LF7 confirming that we have a line speed of 110. What signal are we getting here? What? Did we not get already our distance signal? Yes, of course. This is why we don't have an NE2 board, and this is a mere signal repeater. Signal repeater in the HV system, always sporting the white additional light, because it is always closer than 1000 meters to the next main signal. Signal repeater here still indicating that the next signal is a high green HP1. And here actually is our main signal that was indicated by the distance signal and the repeater. And they indicated well, because it is actually an HP1 high green. Funny enough, now the green light is at the bottom of the signal, no longer at the top, so they are different signals construction wise, but it does not change the aspect. And again, we are getting a distance signal here already with the white additional light, and as it is shown together with the main signal, we know that the next signal is coming in a shorter distance than 500 meters. And you will see that the distance is actually much shorter than 500 meters here. Signal has the number 182. 900 meters. And now let's just play dump. Don't slow down, because the counter is running. And you see the next signal is already here after about 500 meters counter-wise. So that was a very short distance, a very, very narrow spacing of the signals, not 1000 meters, not 800 meters, but 500 meters. And we got the next main signal here. And now it has the A number. This will be a telltale sign typically for the Halbregelabstand Verfahren. And we're getting here now our double yellow that translates to Halt erwarten. We have to prepare that the next signal is red. And typically when we get a signal of that kind, we can slow down and know that we have about 1000 meters regular braking distance to actually slow down from our line speed of what we have here, 1100 meters per hour, so 110 kilometers per hour. Obviously we would start slowing down now. First to 80, then to 60 for the 500 hertz, and prepare for stopping at the next signal. And we apply the brakes, and look how fast the next signal is there. We get our 500 hertz. There was no chance that we could do that. It should have been down to 60. That's the next thing. And even though we get a Zwangsbremsung, we can't make it to stop at this signal. Even though we reacted to the double yellow halt erwarten in the way that we were supposed to do that. Let's discuss it in a presentation. What happened here and what probably should have happened if it had been implemented correctly. Presentation. German signaling HV Halbregelabstand. Half regular braking distance. So, what is the problem and how do we deal with it? This is our line, this is our train coming from the left, and then we typically have signals spaced in a way that there are 1,000 meters in between, and let's say the last signal in the line is red. Obviously, it gets announced by the double yellow on the distance signal, and the main signal that is coming with this distance signal is green, because the train can still pass this signal but has to prepare to stop at the next signal. And for that, well, the signal before then is green, and green in the distance signal because the following signal is green. So we are getting a high green, expect high green, expect high green, expect stop. And this is the idea of the HV system, that we have always 1,000 meters distance in between, so that we can slow down our train after we've seen the Halt erwarten, the double yellow distance signal, and come to a safe stop in front of the red signal. The problem with that is that if the train stops at this signal and a second train is running after, it obviously has to stop at the next signal. The red train is stopping here. Obviously, the signal behind this train is falling to red because this block is occupied. The blue train here has to stop at this signal. The signal behind this train is falling to red. And if there is coming another train, black train here, it gets the double yellow distance signal at this point to prepare for a stop at this red signal here. That means we can have one train per block of 1,000 meters, and that is at the same time limiting the capacity of the line. So we can have on one train per 1,000 kilometers. What is quite nice, but in regions with heavy traffic and with a lot of trains coming in, this can be quite a limiting factor. Wouldn't it be nice actually if we could make the trains to huddle together a bit more by putting the signals in half the distance, like 500 meters? Then the blue train can go up one block, and obviously this signal is going to be red, not this signal. We have gained 1,000 meters, and this signal can be red. Obviously, we have to announce the red signal with a double yellow distance signal. We can light the additional light to indicate that the braking distance is shorter than normal. That signal in front of that would be green with expect green. On the HV distance signals, we would light the additional light to indicate that the braking distance is shorter, even if there is no braking to be done. Here the signal would be a high green with expect high green normally, and then our train can come. And what is the problem? The problem is what we just encountered in our experiment, that the distance between the distance signal and the red signal is much too short to be able to do a proper braking here, to react and brake in 500 meters if our trains and the speed and everything is coined to a distance of 1,000 meters. So that does not fly. Either we would have to slow down the speeds so that we can work with a shorter braking distance, but with a braking distance of 1000 meters, speeds and Bremshundertstel coined to this distance, this doesn't work. We've seen this in the game. There was no chance that we could slow down enough before we hit the 500 hertz to slow down to the 60. That was necessary to not get an emergency or a penalty brake from the 500 hertz and to not slide over the red signal that is coming there. So how do we fix this? Same situation again, 3 trains, 2 are waiting at the red signal. This signal is obviously red behind the blue train to protect this block, and another train is coming in. There's no secret, this signal here is high green, expect high green again. And if we have to ensure, and if you want to ensure for this black train a braking distance of 1000 meters before he gets to the red signal, we will have to display the double yellow expect stop distance signal at this signal here already. Then we don't need a white additional light because the full 1000 meters is actually here. So this is the distance signal for this signal here. We will have to show a high green because the train can pass this signal, has to prepare to stop at the next signal. But this is the problem, because we actually have a signal sitting in between. So what aspect should we show on this signal here to not confuse everything and not to break the proper sequence? If we show a red here, we have the same problem again, that we only have 500 meters to stop here. If we show a green, then it does not comply with the distance signal that announces a stop signal at the next signal. So that would break the sequence and get everything confused. So the only thing that we can do is to discard this main signal for this particular sequence here. And how do we do that? How can we tell the driver that the signal that is sitting here is deliberately not to be considered as a valid signal? We do it by lighting the so-called marker light, the Kennlicht. This tells the driver the signal is off, but it is deliberately off for some operational reasons. And the operational reason here is to take the signal out of the sequence to provide a 1000 meter proper braking distance for this red signal here, starting with this distance signal here. And what do we do with the, normally distance signal here? We light it, we repeat the double yellow, turn on the additional light, because now the braking distance to the stop signal here is shorter than the 1000 meters significantly, and that because the main signal is taken out of the sequence by the Kennlicht, now acts as a mere signal repeater. There is no NE2 sign because it is fixed to the same mast as the main signal. The main signal is taken out of the sequence by the Kennlicht. So this, what is typically a distance signal, is downgraded to a mere repeater by the Kennlicht on the main signal. And then the signaling sequence makes sense again. We are getting a proper 1000 meter braking distance from our distance signal, repeated here at half distance, and then we can come to a stop at the red signal here. So now we fixed it. What happens if those trains move up one block? And we take this white thing out of the way, because actually it is still there, the signal, but it is taken out of the equation with the Kennlicht. So if the train move up one block and the blue train is now here where the red train was waiting at this stop signal, the signal behind the blue train is obviously red, but now this whole contraption with those 3 signals, expect stop, Kennlicht, repeater and stop signal, can move up one block, so that what we had here now moves 500 meters ahead to this signal, and then the Kennlicht and repeater signal sits here. We have our 1000 meters from here to there, and on this signal here we can have a high green HP1 together with the expect high green, and now we have to turn on the additional white light because the spacing is only 500 meters, and even if we do not have to stop on the VR distance signals, we have the additional light on also on the VR1 aspect. So quite clever actually, without working with ZS3 and ZS3V speeds, just by using our stop and go signaling and the respective aspects on the distance signals that make us expect them. So that is, in my understanding at least, the gist of the Halbregelabstandsverfahren, and it is called Halbregelabstand because we are halving the regular braking distance from 1000 meters to 500 meters. Or obviously you can do it with different regular braking distances as well, and still providing enough braking distance to stop in front of a red signal. Unfortunately, in the game, from what we have seen, it is this redded out thing that is happening. We got the double yellow on the signal 500 meters in front of the red signal, and there was no way to react to it. The signal should have been turned off with Kennlicht, and we should have gotten the double yellow distance signal on the signal before already. How can we recognize a signaling of that kind? Obviously from the spacing of the signal. If there is a signal every 500 meters instead of every 1000 meters, then it might be a Halbregelabstand working here. And telltale is also that one signal in the line that appears to be on the open track when approaching a station. This first signal that comes in a distance of only 500 meters has typically an A in front of its number, like we have seen it in our game already. This signal had a number like 180, and this is the signal then gets a number like A178, showing that this is the first signal sitting in half the distance. I've put can't show red. That is a specific for this signal here. Why can this signal not be held at red at any time? Because in 1000 meter distance, we do not have a distance signal that can properly announce a red aspect here. Right here, there is no signal in this spacing. We can't show the double yellow expect stop on this signal because we have only 500 meters braking distance. We can't show it here because there is a main signal sitting in between. We could turn off this signal here with Kennlicht, and we have 1500 meters, but this is, as far as I know, not done properly. So typically this A signal cannot be held at red. It is either green with expect green or green with expect to stop. All right. That is what I wanted to tell you about the Halbregelabstand and the implementation in the game. Maybe at some point in time we can discuss this with someone who is actually in a position to implement this in the game. As far as now, it seems like it is only implemented in this red way. That is not a proper way of signaling. Yeah, it is only in the HV system that we encounter this half regular distance system like this. Here again, this would be the regular braking distance, spacing of 1000 meters, more or less. If it is a bit less, then you can get the additional white light, so 900 meters might still be enough if you brake a bit harder. 960 meters is still within the tolerance, so you wouldn't even get an additional white light. And if you want to put them in a shorter distance, like 500 meters spacing, Halbregelabstand, then you get this signaling here with the Kennlicht on the second, but yeah, on the last signal before the stop signal, and the distance signal with the double yellow on the second but last signal before the stop signal. How is this done in the KS system? is there a Halbregelabstand in the KS system? As far as I know, there is not. You could do it. The Kennlicht also works with the KS system, but there is probably no need to do it. And as far as I know, it is not done. And you do things with ZS3 and ZS3V speed indicators so that you bring down the speed so that it is actually possible to slow down your train in the shorter braking distance. So if we have the same situation here, that the blue train is waiting at the red light, the signal behind the blue train is red as well. If we have the signal spaced in 500 meters, then we would have the signal at this point here showing the KS2 aspect. Proceed, but expect to stop at the next signal. We would light the white additional light on the top left, indicating that the braking distance is shorter, and we would use a ZS3 indicator with a white numeral to limit the speed. Whether it is 60 or 40 or 50, I don't know if it is a specific speed that is used at this point, or whether it depends on what trains are running there, what speed is the line speed before we get there, and so on. I just put 60 because typically, as far as PZBO is used, typically 60 is a speed where it is safe to pass the 500 hertz magnet. That is typically in a distance of less than 500 meters to the red signal, so that it should be possible to slow down your train within 500 meters to a stop. Obviously, we need to announce this with a ZS3V indicator, or signal. Actually, it is a proper signal, a ZS3V, and this needs to be mounted at usually mounted at a main signal, and you would get a flashing KS1 again with the white additional light indicating that the braking distance is shorter than usual. And then the sequence before would be an HP1 high green. If the line speed is significantly higher than this, then you can build a second speed reduction, like first slowing down to 100 and then to 60 or whatever with ZS3 or ZS3V indicators, so that even though you have a significantly reduced braking distance now, you would make it safe for the trains by bringing them down into a speed funnel, as we say in Germany, Geschwindigkeitstrichter, so that we are actually bringing down the speed gradually so that the braking distance is enough. Yeah, that was what I wanted to discuss with you today in my presentation. It was actually shorter than usual with the presentation, but never mind. It does not always need to be that long. It is probably not the most central piece of information about HV signaling and signaling altogether, but an interesting bit, and we have it in this Frankfurt S-Bahn. It is not so super commonplace, this kind of signaling, but if you read up in the Wikipedia page, the area around Mainz-Kastel is mentioned as an area where it happens. I wanted to show you on the map again that it also happens from the other side, where we can also find those AE signals. And Juniper says, was a short but dense presentation. I will watch it again to understand even better, I think. That is great. It will be on YouTube as usual as soon as it got processed and I got around to finalizing it. So this is Mainz-Kastel again. We came in from the north. If you're coming in from the south, from Frankfurt, you can also find signals in a spacing. So starting at this junction here, where you come from Bischofsheim from the south across, or yeah, Bischofsheim it is. You can see when you're coming in. No, that is not where you're coming in. Here you're coming in. This signal does not actually show a number. It is probably not the signal for the proper direction. Whatever. Let's start here. Signal 171. Now odd the numbers because we're coming in the different direction. 500 meters later, already the next signal, and here the telltale A signal, A 175. And then 500 meters later, 173. So you can see also when we're coming in from this end to Mainz-Kastel, we get a Halbregelabstand. So both approaches, north and south into Mainz-Kastel, sport this Halbregelabstand to get more trains on the same length of track that all want to go through Mainz-Kastel here. Theodorus seems like a thing that could be resolved by ETCS, but sadly also another case of not enough money to overhaul the line. Inspector says, hey, sorry I'm late, but my old MacBook Pro and Firefox did not like Twitch anymore. Oh, I'm so sorry, but I'm happy that you're here, Spectre. Unfortunately, you missed the presentation already in our demonstration how the game probably does not implement properly the Halbregelabstand. Only a question mark showing instead of the stream. Well, good you're here now. And Theodoros, yes, with ETCS this is all not a problem. With ETCS and modern systems you don't stick to a regular braking distance, fixed regular braking distance like this. You just make it and at some point you have virtual and moving blocks and everything, and you don't need this anymore, and you can increase the line capacity. But this is a system that comes from a time when you did not have microprocessors. Actually, you had to work with your fixed signals. You spaced them in a fixed braking distance so that you can calculate your Bremshundertstel and make sure that every train can stop within the distance signal distance. And then things like this were invented to still increase the capacity, and as long as the lines are not modernized, it is still around and still working. And well, also in railroading, I think it is true that you should not change a working system as long as it is more or less working. Spinner Tornado 94, hello, nice to have you on the stream. Yes, we were discussing something very German today with the Halbregelabstand. It all stems from the idea that you should have a fixed braking distance and how to increase the capacity anyway without breaking the rules for your signaling system and so on. If we have modern things, microprocessors, ETCS, communication-based train control, then we don't need this anymore. But as long as the whole thing is working like this, it is nice. And in the train simulation game, it would be always great to have those historical things working, especially since we do not have ETCS and yeah, IETMS or whatever systems running that can work with communication-based train control or even virtual blocks and the spacing there. That's it. One thing where you can see this no, I actually can jump. Where you can probably see this Kennlicht thingy is at Mainz Hauptbahnhof, but there I think the Kennlicht and the white additional light is at the wrong, is connected with the wrong route. Platform 1 at Mainz Hauptbahnhof, it is subdivided by a lot of Zugdeckungssignalen. Those little signals here hanging from the roof that can only show HP0 and Kennlicht. And if you're starting here from this signal at the end of platform 1, yeah, can discuss if this is actually the end of platform 1, because at the end of platform 1 you have another signal. Let's spawn a train here. our signal is red, and typically when we're playing this in our timetable mode, as CD Radar said the other day, we are typically getting routed here to the left with an HP2, running through the left part of the station more or less, and then going back to the right to go across here. No, not to go across here, to go across here towards Mainz North. So let's see if that happens here as well. Yes, and we get this funny aspect here if we do that. And Spinner Tornado says, I've been actually looking into signaling myself, but for something completely different. The FRA in America wants to standardize the restricting aspect throughout the country. Oh, that will be an interesting thing. No longer red over yellow, or yellow over red, or lunar or flashing red, or whatever. That is an interesting thing. We would lose a lot of... But the restricting is actually the most confusing aspect if you compare the American signaling systems. And see, Rhea, what? I didn't say anything. No, not today, but last time we played this, you said, why are we actually sent to the left from the rightmost part of the station to the leftmost part of the station, and then back to the right to go to Mainz. See, we are going to the left, staying on the left, and at the end here we are going to the right again, and then we're going out to Mainz North. Why don't we stay on the right track here? And because we have to go across the switch on the left side, we are getting an HP2. That makes sense. But the game lights the Kennlicht here together with the HP2. And I said it in the last stream, this might be a nice aspect for people from Ireland, like green, white, orange. But it is probably not a proper aspect in the German system. You can argue that maybe the signal is stuck to green and yellow, and they turned it off deliberately with the Kennlicht dispatching us via Kennlicht. That limits us to 40 anyway, but I don't think it is intentional. I think this Kennlicht is actually supposed to be on a different route, just as this white additional light for the prepare for a slow signal here on the distance signal. Because if we choose a different path that does not send us to the left across this switch, but actually out via this signal here, Q251, what is obviously a full-blown main signal here, then this signal here comes in a very short distance, and therefore we would switch it off. And how do we switch it off? By Kennlicht. And this Kennlicht actually belongs to the other route, in my opinion. I delete the path, signal falls back to red, and now I set a path that takes us hopefully into the siding here. And what do we get here? We get now our HP2 aspect at this signal. We get a prepare to stop aspect on the distance signal together with the white additional light, weißem Zusatzlicht, telling us that the next stop signal that is at the siding here to the right is not in a proper braking distance. That is totally okay. And therefore they should invalid this signal here, because it is in a much too short distance. And now it is just dark, and this is the situation where the Kennlicht is required, because now with the dark signal and the white red white mast sign, we cannot pass the signal without a written order. And the intention probably was to put the Kennlicht in this route here, not in the other route. And then it also makes sense to have the distances signal aspect of VR2 prepare for slow, what would be the next signal here to mark it as a repeater, or if it is intended. No, it would be a repeater then, because with the Kennlicht on this signal here, it can only be a repeater. But then for that it needs the white Zusatzlicht. So the two white lights that we saw on the aspects for the route that is going to the left at this switch should actually be on this route here, on the main signal as a Kennlicht, on the distance signal as a white Zusatzlicht, a weißes Zusatzlicht, white additional light. In my humble opinion, if I'm wrong here, please let me know in the comments. But enough of experiments of free roam, now let's actually drive. And yeah, we're not done with doing experiments. I'm going to run one and the same service in the reduced timetable and then in the full timetable to see what actually is the difference. I will have the FPS marker running so that we see the difference in performance, and at the same time the difference in density, traffic, whatever. So Frankfurt S-Bahn, I play the reduced timetable. Let's take the 4:23 for a change. They have nice and short services from Frankfurt Main, starting not underground but overground, and going to Hoechst. So this is the S2. What is not mentioned in the title of the DLC, but it is still in the package of the DLC. The 423 for the Rhine-Main area comes with the DLC. It is not a layer. And we're running from Frankfurt Main. You can see it here to Frankfurt Hoechst, what is famous for chemical industry, especially creation of paint. That is why it is called Farbenwerke here. And let's go to July or August and have some light clouds. 1502 service. Let's light it up here. Is it already the correct one? Yes, perfect. And get started. So here we are, S2 Frankfurt to Hofheim on the 423. Bit of an older cap here with the MFA instead of the MFD. And unlocking is more or less the same as usual. We have our marker lights already on. And the FPS marker. Let's look around. This is the reduced timetable. We have some trains to the right. We have no trains to the left. It looks a bit as DLCs looked in former times. Some trains are there, but except for that, a bit like in Zombie Apocalypse. Juniper, I have been frustrated with some of the tutorials in journey mode being impossible to achieve enough points to get gold medal. Oh, yeah, that is sometimes so. At least if you don't run up and down within one block to scrap the points together. This is still an old problem. Here you can see proper livery, Bahn Rhein-Main, S-Bahn Rhein-Main. And here you've got the Rhein-Main Verkehrsverbund logo. Spinner Tornado says the restricting speed will be a solid white signal A special aspect basically meaning a train can enter a clear or occupied track by a super slow speed, yes. Usually used for when engines need to couple on the main entering a yard or if there's another intrusion or possible danger. Yeah, solid white light. So the lunar white would be the connecting thing for the restricting. Interesting. In the Code of Federal Regulation it says for restricting you can use lunar or yellow. As far as I remember. But the FRA can obviously change it because the FRA is the body that can change what is in the Code of Federal Regulation within reason. At any rate. So all the lines with flashing reds and yellow over red or red over yellow restrictings will have to adjust. We are getting dispatched by or versus Kennlicht here. That means we are limited to 40. We cannot break free from the PCP starting program because we have not yet seen a Fahrtbegriff of more than 30 and don't know what to expect at the next main signal. So we go with 40 until we see. Now we've seen an HP1 with ZS3 Kennziffer 4. That means now we can break free even though we cannot go faster than 40. About 30 FPS. At least there's a train coming in across the ramp while we're going out. But apart from that, there's not much traffic going on here on the reduced timetable. We're sticking to the 40 from the signal. Now it's getting upgraded to 80. Well, we have to pass the whole thing with our train. We have two trains down in double traction. There is another train overtaking on the right side going across the ramp. Now I think it is safe to go 80. Heading for Griesheim. Frankfurt S-Bahn Degrowth Edition. Spectre. Well, now we should actually be able to go to the 100. Yes, we can. Because we ran out of the Weichenbereich. Maybe we did. Maybe it was not the exit signal yet. At any rate, now we can. And Spinner Tornado, signal standardization is slow because each railroad back in the day had their own and made their own modifications and versions. The sole reason why there are so many signal aspects... Sorry, I will have to honk. What is ran off? Sole reason why there are so many signal aspects in America because they don't only communicate if they can move or not, but other things, like there's a signal aspect meaning travel through switches at slow speed, then proceeded line speed. Yep. American signaling is so beautiful. And I love the many different signaling systems. We have a lot of videos about it on the channel. Fortunately, the rules are not so easily accessible as the German rules or the French or Polish or British rules for it. Travel through switches at an advanced speed. Preparing to stop at the next signal, yeah. You looked into Canadian signaling. They, I think, have the most signals. So at any rate, we are really early here. So we can procrastinate a bit. To stop at the 210 marker. Because we are short. Oh, the train actually verhungert a bit. Spectators recently played Riesa Dresden again and was reminded that the East German HL system is actually quite a clever one. Yes, that is true. That is a really clever signaling system, but obviously most clever if you don't exceed the speed of 120 kilometers per hour. If you're getting faster than that, it is getting to its limits. And Spinner Tornado says signaling in America aims to tell the engineer exactly what's happening and what to do, but the consequences is that it takes quite a bit of time to learn. And Spectre says true, it is for slow networks but very efficient. Yep. Yeah, American signaling is beautiful, but I think it is quite expensive to change all the signals that used to signal restricted in a different way. If you look at the NORAC system and how many different aspects the NORAC signaling rules allow for a restricted speed, just because there are so many railroads with all the different signaling systems collected in them. Starting with color position lights, colorized position lights. And funny things like this. Frankfurt-Griesheim. No idea what is special about Frankfurt-Griesheim. Any rate, it's the first stop on the S1 too, so if you're driving the S1 services, you're going to stop here. Look how nicely this guy is staying behind the white line. And now it starts raining. Even in the reduced setting it can start to rain, and we have to prepare for a slowdown to 100 from 120. This is why we get the flashing KS1 together with the yellow 10, or is a ZS3 weekends if I'd seen. Oops. Don't apply too much power until the brake cylinders have drained. The wipers are wiping, but it does not look as if they are doing a lot. Does it? Frankfurt-Nied is next. Yeah, well, guys, what is that? What are the wipers doing? They are not doing anything. Is this a specific of this train, or is this a specific of... I guess we got an LF7 at the moment that we have not fully passed. Somebody fix this wiper, please. This is annoying. Can't read the chat at the moment. Slow down to 100 again in line speed. Oh, we have to stop at Nied anyway, so... And even though we're running in the reduced timetable, we are down to 17 FPS. In the rain. Oh my gosh, those wipers are broken. Let's find the stopping position. Train slows down significantly slower in the rain. So, Spinner Tornado, I recently went to a very remote part of the Mojave main line, and it's an incredible spot. It still uses semaphores, and even once predating semaphores like ball signals. I've heard about them. Incredible that they are still used on the main line. Oh yeah, I would like to have seen this as well. Wiper is broken, the Spectre. DB has to cut costs, and Juniper, wow, that's a horrible. Can't see. And CD Raider says, that's what you get with your stupid dynamic weather. Yes, I said that. Of course, it rains. So, next stop is at Frankfurt Hoechst. Viper, Deutsche Qualität, Theodorus, yes. Reduced timetable, but dynamic weather. Priorities, so important, DTG. Well, I'm still a defender of this dynamic weather, but maybe... Maybe I can have working wipers anyway. Theodore, stick your head out of the window, it's too bad. But then I can't see my speed clock anymore. Theodorus DB should give out helmets with visors, please. So, slow down to 90, coming in. The Raider says dynamic weather should be named whatever, expect rain 100%. Yeah. I don't mind that it rains. But it should stop occasionally. So those Markov chains should be changed a bit. Because it feels like it inevitably starts raining at some point. But it almost never stops. Good thing that we are already at Hoechst and there is only one more stop to go. What is it that the signal says? And what usually you should get here? High green with expect stop. That's okay, because we have to stop at Hoechst anyway. It always rains outside of you. And this is why it is not... This is not called that dynamic weather. Yeah, that's true. Actually, a quite moist dynamic weather. And Spinner Tornado says, so let me just not miss the distance signal. So then we get our limit to 80 here. or I won't go faster than 60 in anticipation of the 500 Hz that we should be getting. And Theodore says DTG is UK based, so to them dynamic weather always means rain more often than not. Well, as far as I know, they are struggling with not enough rain quite heavily at the moment, or at least have been a couple of weeks ago. Spectre, don't let the Minister of Transport read this. After the Spinner Tornado said, when will DB just remove the front window? Can't worry about wipers with no wipers. Yes, helmets with visors. Here's the 500 Hz. Indicators are a bit dark here. The 1000 Hz, you can almost not see the 500 Hz a bit. Well, we've been complaining, but now the raining stopped, didn't it? Can turn off the wipers again. Frankfurt Hoechst-Farbenwerke. Farbenwerke, this is a paint factory. And that was that. In the reduced timetable. Now let's play in the normal timetable and see if there is a bit more traffic going on. TDRS as well, another advantage of ETCS, LZB or any cab signaling. That is true. If you have the front the front windscreen removed, then apparently you probably have the problem with reading your cab indications then. And Theodore, it's either not enough or too much humans every time. Yeah, Spinner Tornado, Theodora, and it reeks too. The UK routes are incredible, but a decent amount of the German ones are not the best quality, and I don't even want to touch up on the American routes. Disappointing there. Yeah, I think there is not enough knowledge about the American routes. I'm happy that they have the American routes that they have. But you have to give them that getting the sources and resources about American routes is not as easy as getting the ones for the UK routes and the German routes. Just because the American railway carriers don't give away their operating rules that freely. They all have their own set of rules, and they are limiting the access to the employees, what makes sense in a way. But what makes it harder for us to recreate stuff. And recreating an IEMTS system that is a complicated proprietary system is obviously a nightmare. I can see that. So, same service, but in the not reduced. Oh, a prediction started. What did CD Radar do? What did he want you to... What does he want you to predict? So, what is it now? Why can I not put it in a proper place? Well, then it has to sit here. Will it rain again? That is a good prediction. I cannot get it anywhere else. And just leave it where it is. 1502. What did we have? July probably. Light clouds, so then we have the same set for our weather that we used in the previous service. So let's see. All right, same service again. And when looking out of our window, we see already here a couple of more trains. See for unisolated. Oh, I don't have to turn it on again. We have about the same. FPS wise, I should say. Mark lights are on. Let's look around a bit. Well, you remember how empty this part was on the reduced timetable? It is significantly more populated now. I think you can't discuss this away. Those trains have been there on the reduced one as well. What happened to this coach? Someone listened too hard to a painted black graffiti. I can see the red train and I want to paint it black. Spin Tornado, the experts out there and the knowledge is there, and there are some absolutely incredible train sims that have most American railroads officially licensed. Run 8 train sim comes to mind. Yeah, true. It's not a matter of getting the licenses. Locomotive selection is usually lackluster and map quality is abominable. See, there probably the carriage for AJ. Yeah, I will tell her. I think she's already asleep. It's not just licensing problem, it's a Dovetail problem. Yeah, I can see that. Is there any train sim on the market that simulates an IETMS positive train control safety system? I don't know if Run 8 does it. I don't think I have seen one. Again, we are dispatched versus the Kennlicht, limiting us to 40. Last chance for 3 points. Everyone. Nobody dares to predict whether it will be raining or not. Final call to gate AD. So, what was that? Well, I was reading the chat. Why was there a signal that I was not supposed to pass? Oi, 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 see the radar, put it on the list. Now I was too comfy that it would be the same service with the same signaling as before, and I did not pay attention. But, well, you have to admit it, with more traffic, there will be more signals. So I should probably have paid attention. Let's do it again. Paying attention. 15:02. June, July, clear light clothes. More traffic, more problems, Spectre. And Spinner, yes, Run 8 train sim does have it. Though most people play that game for the super large scale operations and unmatched multiplayer, along with a level of simulation not seen in many games. Turbos can blow up, traction motors can fail, air brakes can have problems, and couplers can be ripped right off. Yeah, I've heard all of that. It must be a great game. The thing is, if you're limiting your simulation to one area of the world, one context, it is obviously more easy to specialize in there. And the really interesting thing about train-sim world is that you have different signaling systems, different safety systems, different railway philosophies. So I will still hold it in favor of DTG. Even though I sometimes think they could have actually more expertise throughout all their employees about at least some of the systems that they are covering. And sometimes you think they're just trying to cover too many bases at the same time. Hofheim im Taunus. So from Hoechst-Farbenwerke we would probably go to the north, branching off there. And we have with the Expert 101 at least one locomotive built by TSG, Train Simulation Germany, that can have errors and faults. Snoimo. What is that again? What CD radar says? Well, there is a danger of being dispatched by versus Kennlicht that you think, well, now you roll out of it. And then actually the signal is red at the end of the platform. So, even though I'm happy that the chat is so active today, I should pay a bit attention to what I'm doing and not rely that everything is the way that it used to be. Yeah, you're right, Sniper Tornado. The third-party developers actually added a lot of quality. And Just Trains with Preston Carlisle, that will be coming up on this stream here soon. And the Blackpool branches are really good. Also, Trains in Germany is a very good third-party provider. So, well, the signal is undoubtedly red. Probably because, as you can see in the distance, there is a 143 pulled Dosto train coming in. Maybe that is the reason? Well, no, it's actually not in our way. But it is... We've got a restricted 500 Hertz now, so we will be limited to 20 until the red indicator goes off. And see, the rest says, I don't know. In Austria, maybe. Kennlicht is fine. Expect the Preston color is extremely nice. Looking forward for the military pack. Yeah, going to be released next week. Volume 4 in the cargo line with military vehicles. If it works on my system, I will probably do an unboxing stream. That will hopefully fly better than the poor Thomas 80th anniversary stream on Friday. Spectre hauling military equipment with a 47 over long distances. Yeah. The good thing about the Preston Carlisle is that you actually have really long distances. Then you have long distances in the East Coast Main Line, Peterborough, Doncaster. That is really a long stretch. And freight services actually only start making sense with a long stretch of track to go. Well, can't deny that there is a bit more traffic going on the not reduced but full timetable, right? We will see if we ever get a proceed aspect though, with all the traffic here. They're actually reversing. Does the train without a cab car at the end, see? Things are happening here. Signal is still red, unfortunately. Do you even cab car? A shunting, yeah. What's shunting though? Does the cars around. Here's the Maintal, the Zero Classic from the Westfrankenbahn. Obviously the wrong livery. Train makes sense, but the livery is wrong. A 425 coming in from Bremen-Oldenburg. This is why we have Niedersachsen. It's also the wrong livery. See the radar, but they couple it to the cab car, and cab will be in the middle. Oh. How do you know? Did you play this service? What they did with it? So maybe the cab car is in the wrong alignment then. Ah no, this is what they do. They couple it to the cab car. Yeah, I remember playing a service like this, I think on the Frankfurt Fulda route, where we were reversing like this. Maybe they copied their timetable here, because they say it's a failed train. And they have a sandwich formation with a cab car in the middle. FPS is quite still low at the moment. 2 trains running out at the same time. Well, you can see what it does. The more traffic, the more the merrier, but it is hard on the FPS like this, even with my a bit downgraded engine. So this train actually has precedence before us because it is going across our track. But that at the same time means that maybe we are lucky enough to get a green light after that. Juniper, is that dispatcher tower in the middle still in use? I don't know. I guess, but I don't know that they still have someone dispatching from that tower here. Must be funny to look at Frankfurt Hauptbahnhof from this dispatcher tower here. You don't have to use those stairs to get to your workplace. I think this is an emergency exit. And Theodore's seen one of those shunting movements in real life video of Vienna Hauptbahnhof. See the radar, I like those double railsheds with towers in the middle. Yeah, and they get separated then at a certain point, right? So guys, what is it? Are we supposed to wait all day before we get a proceed aspect here? Or are we not getting out of the Hauptbahnhof at all? No, we got one. Yay! This controller wants to be held in place for quite some time, otherwise it will always snap back to the neutral position. Don't forget, we're limited to 20 as long as the red light is on. And the blue indicators are flashing alternatingly. KS2, with white additional light. Does not activate our 1000 Hertz, or is it just too weak to see? 500 Hertz lamp is still on. No, I don't think that we got 1000 Hertz for the KS2. At any rate, we are not in the in the restricted monitoring. Oh, we are still. No, it started again. That was probably just an FPS problem here. We are still in a restricted 500 Hertz. Now we are in a restricted 1000. It all of a sudden came on. Interesting. Now we are limited to 40. What confirms with our ZS3 at this point. Second presentation of today. No, there is no second presentation. I'm through with the presentations today. Now we are out of the restricted. We could go now faster according to PZB, but we are still limited by the signal. It limited us to 40. Now it is increasing to 80. What is okay. The red light obviously changed to a green one. And as soon as the two trains are past this signal, we can increase to 80. We can leave the PZB flashing, doesn't matter. Now it turned off. If we want, we can release, or we can just leave it run off. So I think now we are out of the Weichenbereich, but I'm not exactly sure where the exit signal is. Whether this was the exit signal already, or whether we are just passing the exit signals or stay at the 80. So we get to the next signal. Next signal does not give us any speed indication. So when having passed it with our whole train, I will accelerate to the 100. Still 100 at this point. Yes, line speed. Still 100. We're getting to the point where we have to honk. And see, the radar said, yes, you need to complain, and then you get your signal. That's alright. Now we're getting a KS2 again. Need to honk, need to slow down to 80, then to 60 for the 500 Hertz. Juniper says, I think Zurich Budapest, where one part stops in Vienna, or the other, the line speed increases to 110. And one part goes to Graz from Innsbruck, or one part goes to Vienna Flughafen, yeah. But this is... But then they have the middle towers run dead in the train, right? It is not working then if they have it in the middle. Or are they actually have it working from the middle and do distributed power? 500 Hertz, are we getting it? Yes. That means we are supposed to slow down to 40 within 153 meters. And wait at this signal, what is maybe the home signal for Frankfurt-Griesheim. Unless Frankfurt-Griesheim is only a Bahnhofsteil of Frankfurt Hauptbahnhof and we have all intermediate signals here. I really don't know. Would need to have an expert for the Frankfurt signaling here. Number looks a bit more like an intermediate signal. 63B232. At any rate, we're sitting here now. Don't think there is a Rule 55 in Germany, but we can always complain that we can't go in. Requesting entry. Ah, Theodorus, you meant the presentation with the 7 FPS. Yeah, actually it improved a little bit. And now we've got our... For whatever reason, the 500 Hz monitoring already ran off. It was not a good idea to... It would not have been a good idea to release, because we're getting a new 1000 Hz monitoring again with the alternatingly flashing blue indicators. We know that this is still a restricted 1000 Hz because we stopped, so PZB is limiting us to 40 at this point. And we can't release because the yellow lamp is still on. Now it is only the 85 flashing. That means we are no longer in the restricted monitoring. We can accelerate to the 60 until we get the 500 Hz to make up for lost time. But it's actually quite a nice service with all those red signals. Juniper, you ask for services with a lot of signal action, right? So now we could release, but it does not make any sense anymore. The announced limit to 100 does not need to be acknowledged. And we are 5 minutes late. That was not our fault. At least not exclusively. So, Spectre, I think this is a good example of how much AI trains add to the immersion. I think they are underrated. I have to agree. I did not check out those services before. I just took one random service and thought, well, let's just see what the difference is between the reduced and the full timetable. So here we can release from the restricted, because we can go 100 at the next aspect, and we have not to expect a new 1000 Hz. Line speed increasing to 120. Not entirely sure whether we are out of the Weichenbereich already and can accelerate to the 120. Probably we are. Unless those are all intermediate signals. Now we have to prepare for a slowdown to 100. Not necessary to acknowledge, but never hurts to acknowledge everything yellow, so that it gets into your muscle memory and you not forget it. FPS is still very, very bad. Theodorus, see now that you're late. It say it is more realistic with this more AI, yeah. And now we're getting our rain now. It looks as if it is going to start raining every second. Frankfurt-Nied. Yes, and here is the rain. I knew it. Prediction was, of course, yes. 159 points because we are so late and slipped over our stopping position. Here is maybe DB also run out of FPS in real life, that's why they're late. Sometimes have to assume, yeah. The signal being red is because we slipped across our position. So it is already red. So we're not spatting here because our nose was already beyond the spat line. Spectre, or they run around searching for collectibles. Are we still in the 90 here? I did not pay attention. No, 90 is coming up. Running up to this Regionalbahn with the 143 and the Dostos. Or, yeah, it is a Regionalbahn. It's driving with a driving trailer. Not only a shunting move. And the other service on the outside. Sifa, Sifa, Sifa. I always thought that the 423 is a strange train. I always have to apply the brakes really hard if you want to stop this thingy. Hard to believe that you did not press Sifa for so long, Cecilia. Yeah, sometimes I start dreaming. Maybe we want the night version here. Since we got the double yellow, we're only going up to 60 for the 500 Hertz. After action report, wiper still not working. Driver tying. Yes. That must be a serial problem on this train. Maybe they misconstructed those wipers on this train. Hoechst-Farbenwerke, that means that is our last stop here on this service. Finally. So, the S2 probably leaves here in this stomach to go to, what is it called, Griesheim and Taunus. Okay, even though we were late and our on-time bonus is exactly 2 points for the on-time bonus, we still got a platinum medal. At least that is not so. See the radar. This is the problem with Czech train drivers are now pointing out, because Michael does not force you to press the Deadman button when it receives a green code, but with ETCS you now have to press it constantly the whole way, and that bothers them. So they don't want to be Pavlovized and have to press the button all the time. Alright. 1 hour 42. I think it is time to play one more service that takes us through the Mainz-Kastel area once again, where we had the Halbregelabstand. For that, I wanted to take a layering service from Bremen-Oldenburg on the 425, what is a Regionalbahn in Frankfurt S-Bahn DLC. So, change the service here to, what was it, an early morning service. To the trains, choose a route, Frankfurt S-Bahn, timetable, full 425. You can't do this in the reduced one. What time did I say? 6:03, that one. We're starting actually at Frankfurt Hoechst and going the rest of the line to Wiesbaden. I have to admit though that the streaming limits my FPS as well. When I checked out how the reduced timetable works in my game, the FPS was much higher. So the streaming obviously or apparently draws out a lot of power. If I said that I love this picture from the Cardiff route. So, here with this service, it is interesting how much time they give you to set up the train and load the passengers. We are starting at 6 hours, 3 minutes and 25 seconds, and just have a look at the left top corner when we are supposed to leave. At 6 hours, 3 minutes and 30 seconds, so we have exactly 5 seconds to set up the train, take our passengers and go on our way. You also have to turn on the lights on this train here. Drain the brake cylinders and let this baby go. Starting at a 40. Sounds about right. CD radar 5 seconds to get going. At least that, or maybe this is the amount of time that they pay you for before your journey starts. Was allowed to release because we were allowed to go 40 and there was no new 500 or 500 or 1000. What? Uh-huh. I'm not getting my points because I did not turn the LZB on. Where is the LZB button? Probably. Let's see what happens. So even if there is no LZB on this part of the line, we have to turn it on, otherwise we are not getting full points. Line speed, what was it? At this point 120, limit of 100 coming in. We're not stopping until we get to Mainz-Kastel. We sometimes get these weird artifacts on the tank cars especially. Not only, but especially on the tank cars. Line speed 100. And the CD radar is holding his head. Here a freight train with the red Vectron coming from the opposite side. 160. Can my train go 160? Actually, before... No, it is limited to 140. Here we actually have a sticker. So 140 is our limit, even though the line speed limit is higher. But our vehicle can't go faster. The 143s are even limited to 120, unlike the 112.1s. So even though the cab car could go faster, I think those services with the 143s are still limited to 120. Actually quite a nice bit of track to run with no limit in track speed incoming. Let's see if the wipers on this train are actually wiping. Here we have a semaphore distance signal showing expect high green. That was late on the level crossing. Yeah, they sometimes close a bit late, right? Semaphore main signal showing HP1. Here the level crossing is closed. Will be interesting where you find out, Juniper, about your signaling situation that you posted about on the Discord. And Theodora says, yeah, I wasn't sure about that one too. Will be interesting to see if the signal stays at yellow even if there is a train actually about to pass. Or whether it switches to green then. Especially a train that does not stop at the stopping point that comes after the bend, but one that runs on. "12 kilometers to Mainz-Kastel, where we have to stop." It'd actually be nice to be able to turn off this distance counter and still see where you're supposed to stop. So you have like a timetable indication. But you need to know yourself where this station is that you have to stop at. Some more ideas about how to customize your HUD. As long as you don't have the timetable information here on the Ebula, obviously. Whereas from what you can hear, we won't have the Ebula for so long, since everything is coming on your tablet. Digital timetable, digital law, digital orders. Expect the minimal HUD distance can be switched off. Even in this setup here, to still have... Yeah, maybe you're right. Have to look into it. But it is not the minimal HUD that I'm running, it is actually the classic HUD. And I remember that some things that you try to turn off in the minimal HUD did not actually turn off, even though there was... Ooh. Wasn't that an HP2? Or was it just a weird way that this signal looked? No, actually, it does not seem to be any reason. Maybe it was just the light coming in strangely, because it was not announced by a VR2, otherwise I should have gotten a penalty break for not acknowledging it. And now it is raining. Again. Interesting how we are cycling through those lightings. Looks actually quite cool. No. That must have been an hallucination. Hallucinatory? An hallucination of an HP2 signal. Now we're closing in on the area where we'll get Halbabstand again. We're coming into Mainz-Kastel. Oh, now I am beyond the 140. I should not be that. Even though the line speed... Oh, it is limiting us to 140 here. Nice. It does not work on the 430, but on the 425 it is limiting us to vehicle speed. Interesting. limit to 100 coming up. That is this junction. Theodora says, well, if you manage to get the route plan, digital printout, you can watch on the side hectometer of where to stop. Yeah. And with a bit of route knowledge, you actually know what the stations are that you have to stop at. So that makes sense and can be fun, I think. Limit going back to 140. And I think this is where the Halbregelabstand starts. Slowing down to 100 again. Yeah, mind with zero route knowledge. Yeah, true. Then you always have to get oriented. This signal is the A signal, the one that is in 500 meters down the line. And here is the VR 0. Excuse me, the VR 0 that we don't have to acknowledge this time, because it turned to green before we passed it. With all my speeding, we're a bit early, so we can slow down early. Now here with the incoming thunderstorm, the FPS is breaking down again. And the wipers seem to wipe on the 425, yes. This is a train from Bremen-Oldenburg, that we don't have that trouble. It's only the 423 version that comes with the Frankfurt S-Bahn that has the wiper problem, as it seems. What annoys me most about the performance issues is that you don't really get a feel for what your train is doing with the brakes. Alright, at least we managed to get our train to a stop here. And, well, it does not rain, it pours. Thank you, Johnny Kaput, for the follow, by the way, if you're still watching. That time jump at Mainz is impressive when hopping from Koblenz. Oh yeah. All of a sudden, you are a couple of decades back. It's actually a nice lighting here, even though the FPS is so bad. High beaming yourself. Yes, I'm high beaming myself. Should have maybe turned off the high beams at the station. So now the time is no longer running. For a moment actually time froze, and how long it takes for 1 second to pass. Whoop. Did I close my doors already? No, they are still open. Johnny kaput, no problem. He says he's still here. Nice for your... Thank you for your appearance on the chat. Posting some pictures. So, let's get out of Mainz-Kastel here with its really harsh FPS problems. We still have to wait 45 seconds until we can leave. And the time can actually be stretched. This is the relativity of time that we experience here. Might have been gotten too close to a black hole. Train to the left does not really stop as long as we do. No, we are rolling. That is the problem. We have to wait a bit. If you don't look at the train, it behaves like a bus. See the radar? That's the DB time. See, they are not delayed. Just have its own time code. Well, this is like in the steam times when drivers and station masters had to compare their watches every time a train stopped at the station to make sure that everyone is on the same page time-wise. Well, CD Radar, I have to admit, I will consider turning off the dynamic weather. At least for streams. But then we would never have found out that the 423 does not wipe the screen properly. So, drain our brake cylinders. Wait for the objective to register. And then... This is not our train that is doing the door noise. Let's see if we can actually get this train moving out of Mainz-Kastel. We're stopping at Wiesbaden Hauptbahnhof. That means no stop at Wiesbaden Ost. We were limited to 90 in this bend. Starting at the high green. Theodoros, is that also why bureaucracy in Germany also famous to be dragged for a long time? Well, probably. Sometimes with bureaucracy in Germany you think they are running on computers built in the 1950s. But with bureaucracy, it's always the same thing. You complain that it's taking so long and that there is so much bureaucracy, and as soon as anything happens, people cry for why authorities did not notice that problem before. So, come on, pick up some speed, pick up some FPS. Skip the thunderstorm. Stop the rain, let's go to Mainz, not to Mainz, to Wiesbaden. This afternoon I had to tell AJ the story what Wiesbaden always reminds me of. Because my father, when he was a kid, had a budgie that they found in the yard. And this bird, obviously repeating what his former owner said, was always saying, "Schau hi Wiesbaden, bist du saufen." What is in German for about like, look how they are going for a swim until they drown. And this is forever connected in my head with the city of Wiesbaden, but obviously doesn't have to do anything with that. But this is how it happens in life. Try to look at the floor ceiling for a while, maybe that will help the FPS. Like this. It does not help. A bit it helps. Yes, you're right. See the radar, it's funny how everyone here in the East complains and compares that it's better in the West, and yet the problems are the same. Everyone here would like to be like Germany because they say everything is better there. Well, I should say a lot is better in Germany. The problem with Germany is that Germans always thinks that nothing can be better than how it is done in Germany. So we never change anything, because most Germans think that we are already at the peak of effectiveness and properness and everything. And yet still a lot can be actually improved, I guess. Limit to 100 coming in. And Spectre says that Bocce was one smart bird. And Spectre, for me, all of Wiesbaden consists of insurance companies. No idea why, alright. What insurance company actually is in Wiesbaden? I connect Hamburg, Köln, Munich more with insurance companies than Wiesbaden. This is Wiesbaden Ost. There's still 100. I think the one belonging to the Volksbanken. Aha. Yeah, I guess that might be true. Does the Wiesbaden even exist in real life? The CD radar. Well, I've been in Wiesbaden in 2024, last year, for a conference and a dinner afterwards. So It does exist. I am sure. Do we do the stream meeting there? If you want, we can do it in Wiesbaden. Looked it up. R&V and Sparkassenversicherung have the HQs there. Ah, so Raiffeisenbank and Sparkasse. So it's already slowing down for Wiesbaden Hauptbahnhof home signal. Never know if you're allowed to go with 60, 50 or 40 into the Wiesbaden Hauptbahnhof. We're going to platform 1. So probably we'll have to slow down to 40. But this home signal can be tricky. Sometimes it signals you are a 5 for 50. And then you're running across a 40 switch anyway. From what I can see, we have to slow down to 40 though. Oh no. It is giving us a 50 indication at this signal. Let's see if that is true. I don't trust it. I don't trust the 5er here. Let's see. So this signal allows us to go with 50 until we get to the next white numeral. And in this case it is actually true. We're not going through a 40. But I've encountered a service where we were routed across a 40 switch even after we got a 50 indication at the home signal. Is it still true? Yeah, it is still true. We're only going across the 60 switch here. Not even necessary to slow us down. I know, in the 50. So we can enter with 50. And shortly before we get to the end, about where the roof starts, we will have to be at 30 because of the isolated ZS3 Kennziffer 3. Don't turn off the wipers here, even though you are inside. Otherwise you will be docked for not using the wipers in the rain. You can hear still the rain on the roof. So that should actually not be. You can't see it on the windscreen anymore, but you can hear it hitting our roof. And gosh, we are here. Made it through low FPS and high water. Objective completed. Service is done. Yeah. Speeding. We don't get a speeding mark if we exceed the vehicle speed here. Interesting. Well, we got a speeding thing at the beginning. What a surprise, CD Radar. Yes. What a surprise that it actually started raining. So I will keep that in mind that probably we won't have dynamic weather all the time on the stream because it is actually slowing things down a lot. 2 hours and 1/4 actually. Guys, thank you so much. It was a very lively chat today. I enjoyed that a lot, even though we had to add another scratch on the SPAD marker. Spectre says, nice stream, thank you very much, and see you next time. Spectre, don't miss out the stream on YouTube to tell me if you liked the Halbregelabstand. Theodorus, thank you so much for this icon, this emoji. And yeah, I hope you liked what I said about the Halbregelabstand. Would be nice if anyone at DTG could talk to me or listen to me, that it might actually be at some point implemented properly, or someone who is in the know tell me that it is implemented properly and that my ideas about it are wrong. At any rate, I'm looking forward to comments on that. See you around. Not sure what we will be doing on the next stream, if the volume 4 cargo pack is actually released next week, as I think it is supposed to, but I'm not entirely sure about this. Then we will have an unboxing stream at some day there, and yeah, if it is on Sunday, then I don't have to find a topic for Sunday. If not, then I will figure out something else. What is coming up in the next week is Preston Carlisle, is the Expert 101 that I am thinking about what to make out of it. And some other things. Guys, thank you very much for staying with me, for supporting me. Be nice to each other and have a nice time. Take care. Bye bye.